Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Unsecurity Podcast. Today is episode 193. Your host, Oscar Minks, joined as always by the wonderful Brad Nye. Hey, Brad, how you doing today?
Good. A little chilly, but other than that, good.
Yeah,
Looking forward
it's
to the holidays.
it's that time of the year in Minnesota, right? You guys had a bunch of snow last week, didn't you?
Yeah, good amount of snow, and then temps, in the low teens.
Ouch.
So yeah, it's not fun at the bus stop when your mustache freezes from just breathing.
But you look like a super cool Viking when it happens,
Yeah,
right?
that is true.
Yeah. Got to put those beard beads in, man. You
Yep,
got do some braids and just go hang out at the bus stop.
there you go.
Zach would probably think it's awesome. The girls may be embarrassed, right?
Yeah, that is 100% correct.
Oh, totally fair. Yeah, it's been um, pretty mild down this way. Like 50s and 60s right now. It's kind of
Oh,
gloomy and gray, but yeah, I'll take that
yeah,
warm
I don't
weather
like
all
the
day of the
movie
week.
Brave.
Yeah,
I don't
the
mind that either.
flu has been running like wildfire though. I'm just getting over a case of the flu myself, and a bunch of folks down here have had it. They had school shut down for the flu and for RSV and all that nasty stuff that goes around this time of the year.
Knock on wood, we haven't had that yet.
Yep, yep. Fingers crossed you don't get it. It sucks. Can't confirm. So we were here last before Thanksgiving, man. How was your Thanksgiving?
Good. It was great to see family. Went and kind of redid our Thanksgiving tradition and realized it was the first time in 4 years. So like
Oh wow,
2018 was the last time we had been able to do this.
wow.
So it was great to go and hang out and see people and
So you guys drove south down to Missouri, right?
uh, Illinois, but yeah, down
Oh,
that
okay.
general Iowa, Illinois, Missouri
Mm,
border there.
yeah. Is that near Champaign, Illinois? Champaign.
Uh, I think we were southwest of that.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy to see how low the Mississippi is. Like
Mm.
you can basically walk across except for the channel. For
Yeah,
the
we've
road.
been in, and I'm in that Mississippi Basin here, as you guys are in Minnesota too. But it's like, if no one's ever looked at the Mississippi Basin, you should look at that on a map because it is
Not,
mind blowing the amount of water that trickles into the Mississippi. But yeah, I know we've been in drought conditions in Kentucky for almost 3 months now, and we still haven't had enough rain to get those water levels normal. So not good for me. My favorite thing to do is to fish and do a lot of small stream fishing. And our small streams, the flows are super low right now and not ideal for fishing, unfortunately.
yeah, I was gonna say probably not too big fish that you could actually hook. Too many, I should say.
Yeah, it's there's good and bad. It's funny, like if you have these honey holes where
Yeah,
the creeks will still hold depths, like there's some deep pools, no matter how low that water gets, they'll hold and sustain, say, a 4 or 5 foot pool of water.
yeah,
Sometimes it can be literally like shooting fish in a barrel because all
yeah,
the big fish are going to be huddled up in that hole. But at the same time, I don't do a ton of targeting when it's like that just because it stresses the fish. I'm a catch and release dude. And I like those guys to be healthy, and so I can catch them again and again year after year. Watch them grow. But
there you go.
yeah, cool. So big plans coming up for Christmas. You got a vacation, right?
Yeah, this will be the first more than 5 day vacation from work. Uh, I think in probably 10 years for me.
Oh
So
wow.
So I've done, shorter 1 week or, 6 day type of things where it's like
Hmm.
leave on a Friday afternoon and be back at work a week later on Monday. But this was a big one for us. So
Yeah. So how long are you going to be gone?
10 days total.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the over Christmas and so with the break and everything, it works out to be, you know, a nice relaxing, heading to warmer weather, and then I'll be
Exciting
hitting
stuff.
the way back.
Yeah. So you guys are going to be heading somewhere warm. You get
Yep.
away from Minnesota winter for a couple of weeks almost. Are you going to do like Christmas at the destination with kids? Or are you taking
No,
gifts and unwrapping gifts there?
no,
No.
no. I told them this vacation is their present.
Yeah.
It's an all inclusive resort, so all you can eat. It's got all kinds of kids activities and stuff like that. So they're really looking forward to it. The
Very cool.
our 20th wedding anniversary is coming up in January, so we're doing it for kind of celebrating that. And
Oh, very
so
cool, man. Congratulations. That's awesome. 20 years.
that's a long freaking time for her to put up with me.
Right, yeah. Way to go. So shout out to Katie early in the
Yeah.
show for putting up with Brad for 20 years. That's a big lift, and you've done a great job.
Yes. Yeah. I'm still here.
Yeah.
What about
Very
you?
cool.
Any big plans for you?
Yeah, we're going to head down to North Georgia. Not quite as long as you. We're going to go down for like 5 days, Blue
Nice.
Ridge area in Georgia. And not quite as warm, but we will get a little reprieve. It's they have a very, very mild winter there. So we're going to go spend a few days in the mountains as our Christmas gift to each other, explore the mountains some. Going to go check out the Toccoa River down there. It'll be a new river I haven't been to yet. And so we're going to go and take the boat and hopefully do a little bit of floating on the Toccoa rivers and
Very cool.
relaxing by the fire and just kind of chilling in the mountains for a few days.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, man, it's that's my like reset button is to just
Yeah.
spend a few days like in the mountains on the river or on the creek somewhere. And it's good. You know, we're so busy this time of the year that our December is always pretty hectic. And so I always like to try to take it, even if not a full week, a few days around Christmas time to be like, I'm unplugging completely. I'm going to get in the middle of the woods, surround myself with nature, and just hopefully come back refreshed and recharged and focused and ready for a new year.
Yeah, there is definitely something to be said for just getting out into the woods and unplugging. Yeah, I'm with
Yeah.
you on that. So fun.
Yeah. For me, it's like very mentally refreshing is the best way to put it. I can, even if it's just a day spent like in the middle of the woods on the water somewhere, give me a couple of hours and my brain has forgotten any stress I packed in. I don't remember what was bothering me. I don't remember why I've been so stressed, and I'm only thinking about one thing at that point, and it's just been in the moment and being present there. And
yeah, there's
it's
just
real good
something very calming just watching sitting out there fishing and just zoning out with everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I love small water too, is the sound of the water. Like I just love the flow of the creek and the song of the creek, I call it, because I don't know, man. It's just like it's powerful. It washes all the stresses away. Just pulls them out of my brain, lets them float on down the river, and that's always a good thing.
There you go.
Yep.
I'm with you. Very cool.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I hope all our listeners had a great Thanksgiving too, and hope everybody's gearing up for a good, strong end of their year, and everybody's staying healthy and has some fun times with their family and loved ones over the holiday season. Yeah. So I think today we're going to dig in on the CISA reporting rule. I don't know, you got any news you want to share beforehand before we get into that, Brad?
We had a couple of stories. I thought the interesting one was the Sirius XM bug in a bunch of cars that allowed them, with just a VIN number, to lock, unlock, start the engine, press the horn, flash the light, open the trunk of certain cars, and then locate the car. A little bit scary, considering they just need a VIN, but
yeah, it's super scary. I mean, if you really think about how easy it is to get a VIN right now, because
right.
most car dealerships used, I know for sure, because we recently bought a used car this year, and you can pull the VIN for any car that's sitting on a dealership, a used car pretty much across the nation right now. And how easy would it be to just sit back and say, all right, I'm going to wait for that car to move off the lot. I've got the VIN. I'm going to use this exploit now to locate that car. And then I'm going to go travel to where that car is, pop the locks on it, and have my way with whatever's inside.
Yep. And you didn't even have to have an active subscription with SiriusXM for this to work.
Oh, wow.
So this is kind of that, almost like the IoT type of thing where, you've got these things put into your car, you don't really have any
Hmm.
control.
Yeah.
Be aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I guess everybody, I don't even know what to do. Do you know if Sirius has announced if they're patching the
Yeah,
vulnerability
they
and how they're going to roll
said
that
the
patch out?
majority of manufacturers have addressed the vulnerabilities, but majority doesn't mean everyone. So
Yeah,
good
and
luck.
I wonder how far back that goes because I know like
Right,
Ford Sync technology, for example, they've been integrating with Sirius for over a decade now. And
right,
so are manufacturers really going to go back and update all of those cars that are out of service, out of warranty, or are they only,
right. Is there a way for
focusing
the
on those?
user to do it?
Yeah,
I didn't see anything. So
yeah,
if you have Sirius, that might be something to look into.
yeah, for sure. Check it out. I don't even know what to say to do. Keep your car locked, but someone's going to keep an eye on your car.
I'm glad I
Yeah,
have an old car that doesn't have it.
that's the beauty of old vehicles. I've come to grips and terms with modern technologies, but I do miss the old school days when there was a carburetor and an engine, and there weren't fancy bells and whistles. Anybody could learn to work on their own car.
Right. Yeah. You didn't have to
Yeah,
have special tools and all that.
yeah, yeah. So I guess my one news story, we were chatting about this before, just kind of a funny one, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more on the Hacklebox Friday. So shameless plug for that. But malware authors inadvertently took down their own botnet. This was reported just yesterday, I believe. So it was a bot, KMSD bot, which is a distributed denial service bot and crypto mining botnet. Um, it was active throughout the world, and essentially the threat actors tried to activate their botnet to essentially launch an attack. I think that attack was, who was it against here?
Shoot, I just had it up.
Yeah, Bitcoin.com. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they were trying to DDoS Bitcoin.com, but essentially the command was malformed and they took down their entire botnet. So way to go, win for the good guys.
Right. Hey, this is, we don't want to promote it, but this is why you have error checking in place.
Yeah. Yeah. So apparently it was simple too. The command they sent should have a space between the URL and the port number. They left the space out, and that was enough to actually crash the botnet. So,
That's hilarious.
yeah, silly. Totally silly. And that's, I've heard of a couple other mistakes. I know there's another a malware ransomware variant that's out right now that again was broken. And we always talk about this. There's no guarantee you're going to get your files back. But essentially, due to improper coding in this this ransomware variant, when files are encrypted, it breaks and there's no way to decrypt the files.
Yeah, there
And
was like
so
a
it's, yeah,
turned into a
actually,
wiper.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
wiper instead of a ransom attack. So our attackers, sometimes they screw up. We've seen it before, and it's interesting to see it in the news here too.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess just another PSA on that note for everybody. It is still incident season out there. Our incident response team is extremely busy right now. We're seeing everything from ransomware attacks to a lot of ACH fraud going on right
Yeah.
now, which is, I think we talked about that in the last episode. It's just that time of the year. Lots of people are trying to get those accounts payable and accounts receivable taken care of before we close out the year. So there's lots of legitimate ACH transactions. And if attackers have access to your infrastructure, now is a very juicy time for them to utilize that access to try to divert funds into their own account. So just be diligent there. I always tell folks, if you see a change in your ACH transaction requested by the person on the other end of that communication, just call and verify. Hey, is this legit? Did you really update your routing number? Did you really update your bank account information and your financial institute? Because if that's not to be expected, there's a good chance it's fraudulent.
Yeah. And the other thing is make sure you train your people, because we've seen the business email compromise where the attacker just, idiot dogs, um, where the attacker sits in their email of the CFO or comptroller and then sends an email with that changed information so that nobody questions it. And,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen that where they've taken hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yep. Yep, it happens every day. So protect yourself.
Train your staff to be aware.
Yep, completely agree. Cool. So I think today we're going to talk about the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act of 2021, which was actually signed in, I believe, in April of this year. They're calling it CIRCIA, CIRCIA. And so, yeah, this is essentially going into effect. It's a reporting rule that CISA is going to be enforcing. It's really just a lot of guidance to our critical infrastructure entities about what to do when they have an incident, and more importantly, how to report that incident.
Yep. Yeah, I really think this is needed, unfortunately, right? We see it all the time where the only time that some of these industries start to take it seriously is when they get regulated.
Mm-hmm.
And critical infrastructure is a target. We've seen it over and over again. So let's start looking at it, requiring this stuff. And then what's nice is also you're now going to get that information sharing. So hopefully preventing other attacks on you that others have suffered.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a step in the right direction, and the potential benefits are great. If CISA can actually orchestrate this and handle it properly so that we are disseminating that threat intel to all organizations, I think it could help CISA do a much better job than what they're doing today. I know they're already, we talk about they're doing a great job, I think, this year. I've seen CISA step up their game, I feel like, this year as well. The biggest complaint I would have, or I don't even know if it's a complaint, but feedback is they still sometimes lag in the time to report things and the time to share things, which is understandable, but also maybe this will be an opportunity for CISA not only to increase the quality of the information that they're disseminating, but that time to disseminate as well.
Yeah, hopefully we get those, PPTs and IOCs and other acronyms faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot more of them.
Yep. So with this, if you're an owner of critical infrastructure, you're going to be required now to report all incidents within 72 hours. They will have authority to subpoena if you're in non-compliance as well. So this can be a legal matter. Civil action may be enforced as well. And it sounds like they're going to be working in conjunction with the Attorney General to enforce these rules. Now, 72 hours is for a general cyber incident, but if you have a ransomware incident or a ransomware attack, those must be reported within 24 hours. To me, it seems like the ultimate goal here is to enforce reporting, and more so even to enforce timely reporting, so that our government agencies have an ability to track and respond and disseminate information.
Yeah, and if you're not sure, look up what's critical infrastructure, because it's much wider than I think a lot of people realize. This is going to affect a lot of different industries.
Yeah, do you have that list, Brad? We could share with folks for everything that's included.
I will make sure we get it. I have it bookmarked. I'm looking for it now.
Okay.
But we'll make sure to check it out and.
Yeah. So I will say I did look at the. So they have a guide, and we'll share the link to the guide for how you report, what to report, all that good stuff. And we'll talk about that too. But they've also put out a fact sheet, and the fact sheet is pretty good. I think the fact sheet has some elements in there that really everybody should pay attention to, and even implement this into your incident response plan. But they document there's 10 key elements to share, right? So these are the 10 things CISA is encouraging anyone who may be affected here to actually share this information. And these are things that you should be doing anyway. Every business should when you're tracking your own incidents and you're responding to those. So the incident date and time, the location, the type of observed activity, the detailed narrative of the event, so what happened A to Z, the number of people and the number of systems that were affected, the company and organization name, the point of contact details, severity of the event, the critical infrastructure that was affected, and who has been informed. And so I like that. I think that's a solid first start to this. And so, I think it's a step in the right direction. Now, I will nitpick here a little bit because I looked at the incidents that are required to be reported today. And I think this can be a little overwhelming both for organizations as well as for CISA. So the number one thing is it also includes attempted incidents, not necessarily successful incidents, right? And so I've seen here included, this isn't the entire list. We can go through the entire list. But I actually will talk through the list. One is a DDoS attack lasting more than 12 hours. You have to report that. If you identify malicious code on a system, you have to report that. So to me, malicious code is going to mean a few things. If you identify malware on a system, to me, that's technically malicious code, and you will need to report that. Could include shell code, right, or injected code into your applications and things like that. So any kind of code you're expecting on the system, you find that you have to report that. Ransomware, obviously, you have to report that. Now, these are the ones that are interesting to me. Targeted and repeated scans, phishing attempts, and repeated attempts to gain access to a system. Now, what do you think about that?
I mean, targeted repeated scan, you've got a DOS, or DDoS already listed. What I don't know, what is this going to do? Does this mean now that when Shodan scans you or any of these other BitSite, what is that going to do? That technically being a repeated scan if they're scanning your network from the outside. I think my guess is that is probably going to get dropped. Those things, targeted repeated scans, repeated attempts to gain unauthorized access. I mean, that we have controls to protect against brute force with lockouts and things like that. I don't know. Does that mean now you have to report every account lockout or investigate every account lockout?
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, if these are publicly accessible systems, they're continually going to be scanned, and there are going to be continual attempts to gain access to those systems. And so there's two problems here. Number one, I don't think all of our critical infrastructure entities have the ability to identify this activity on a regular basis. And so then, therefore, they're not going to have the ability. If they can't identify it, then how are they going to report those things, right? And so, yeah, I'm with you. I think that maybe there are some guidelines in here that we may see modified in the future. On the flip side, I will say because of that, this is an important note to share, is that CISA is actually soliciting for expert opinion right now on what to include and what not to include. And so we'll share that link. It's through the federalregister.gov. And I would encourage all of our listeners, if you have opinions on this, to submit your opinions and share your information so that we could work. I talk about this a lot, but it's like, people, we can sit back and gripe about how things aren't as good as they should be, or we can try to contribute and fix things, right? If we're just complaining, we're just complaining. But if we're complaining, but we have actually something to contribute, we can affect and make a change. So I'm going to review that, and I plan to submit my opinion to CISA as well. And I encourage you to do the same, Brad, and hopefully all of our listeners to do the same.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too with that last one of associated with phishing attempts or successes. Does that mean now that all of our filters that we have, like in Outlook, you have the report message, does that put the onus on those providers, if you're critical infrastructure, to report that back if you report it through your tool? Or now do you have to take an additional step of forwarding it to or sending it to their email?
Right. And realistically, too, here within 72 hours, right? So you're going to have to, that's a heavy workload on the administrator, whoever's administering those checks and those systems, to actually do that. I do see the benefit, like from phishing attempts, sure. Like we should be sharing those if you're in critical infra to CISA so they can disseminate information like we've talked about. Hey, we're seeing a campaign of attacks using this context. There's a benefit there, but I actually think execution is going to be much more challenging than realized at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, we have enough trouble getting users to report it to begin with. So now,
Hmm.
how is that going to be impacted, right? Like, is now administrators having to review all the email that comes in? Like, what? That's that seems overly broad. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how that ends up being clarified.
Yeah, and I think we will see clarity in the next 12 months on this. Like we mentioned earlier, CISA is going to publish a notice of proposed rulemaking. That timeline was within 24 months, so I expect we'll see that sometime in the next calendar year, at least the first version of that.
Yeah, and again, overall, I think there's a lot of really good things. You know, it's those 10 key elements overall really strong, right? Like,
Hmm.
yeah, this is good advice. You should
Yeah,
be
I
doing
agree.
this.
Yeah, yeah, I think the heart's in the right place here. It's a good step in the right direction. There's just a lot of maturation.
Yeah. Well, and I almost wonder, it's, there's the 16 different critical sectors, and it is so broad, anywhere from healthcare to manufacturing, mining, all kinds of stuff. Do they, it's kind of like when we put together our templates, we kind of just throw everything out there and then say, okay, let's pull out what isn't needed for
Hmm.
a specific group. I almost wonder if it's going to be a little bit like that, where that, hey, these are fairly broad statements. Let's
Hmm.
start there and tighten it up.
For sure. And really just having some sort of standardized control that we can apply to all those critical infrastructure sectors so they actually
Mm-hmm.
have the ability to identify these things. Then we can enforce their opportunity to actually respond and report.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I
and
like this
this
area.
list is big. It's probably bigger than most people realize.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, you've got, let's see, what are the critical? You've got chemical, commercial facilities, communications, critical manufacturing, dams, defense industrial base, emergency services, energy, financial, food and agriculture, government facilities, healthcare and public health, um, information technology, nuclear transportation, and water and wastewater. I mean,
Hmm.
that covered a huge
Yeah.
cross section.
Yep. Yeah, and I will say, so we'll share the links with everybody after this so you know where to familiarize yourself with the act, how you can contribute, how to report, and we can touch on that really quick. It's really simple. I mean, there's two ways. CISA has a website set up, CISA.gov /report, and you can report there, or you can just email them. It's report@CISA.gov. And for phishing specifically, it's phishing-report at us-cert.gov.
Yeah, and that is good. They made it easy.
Yeah, for sure.
What you
Well,
want?
heck yeah. It's been a good episode today. Before we bounce, Brad, what do you got for shout outs today?
Well, since we already touched on it, I'll just give a shout out to my wife for putting up with me for 20 plus years.
Yeah, yeah, I'll double that. Shout out to Katie. I'll give another shout out to Pinky. Folks who know that name know who Pinky is already, but he is our team lead for the incident response team. And, I've been talking about how busy our incident response team is. We've had a large volume of cases come in, and sure enough, as it always happens, the day before Thanksgiving, we had a client who was impacted by a ransomware attack. And so Pinky stepped up and literally worked the entire holiday through the weekend to help get those folks operational and back on their feet again. And so, yeah, thanks. Big thanks and shout out to you, Pinky, for all your hard work and your dedication there.
Yeah, good guy.
Good dude.
Don't let him
Good
hear
dude
me
for
say
sure.
that though.
Yeah, he doesn't listen to us, so we're not to
Oh,
worry
okay,
about
good.
it. All right. Well, thanks a lot to everybody for tuning in again. Thanks, Brad, for joining us as always. And we will talk soon. Have a great day.